All right, so after 2 long years, Yellowjackets has returned, and we did not revisit the show,
We did
so we
not.
will be going off of memory. We've only watched, I don't know, 785 things since this, and that's probably not an exaggeration.
Yeah,
Actually, that might be an under
it might
exaggeration.
be.
So there's a little time in between these seasons. It's just we've been rewatching the X Files and having time to look up like that kind of information.
Mm.
You sit there and you look at it and you find out that like the X Files had like 24 episodes per season, and there was like 5 months between between each season.
Hmm.
One season would end, and then 5 6 months later you'd have a whole new season of like 24 episodes. And nowadays it takes you know 2 to 3 years to get eight
Oh gosh,
episodes,
yeah. For
and
like
it's just
every TV show now.
now there's a quality over quantity kind of thing for sure to a degree, but these like 2 3 year waits are getting a little ridiculous
They're rough.
because
They're rough.
not only is it annoying for the people who are waiting for sure, but another thing to talk about here is they're going to have a Stranger Things problem on their hands here, right? And they're
Mm.
already kind of running into this. This is a show about like 16 17-year-old girls.
Yeah.
And I was looking while we were watching this, I was looking up out of curiosity, like, how old are these girls in the
Hmm.
flashbacks? And the girl who plays Jackie, who obviously is having a like a really good career right now outside of this show, she's the youngest of them, but the majority of them are like 29 30 years old.
Mm.
Misty and Ty's like 31.
Oh
The
wow.
and even Shauna's daughter Callie is 30,
Oh
and they're
gosh.
playing like 16 17-year olds, and it's like if you wait another 2 years for the next season,
Sure.
right? Because we're like 3 years out from Stranger Things right now. And these kids are the whole show is supposed to have taken place over a couple of years,
Right.
so they're supposed to be like 15 years old,
Yeah,
and they're
it's
like
hard to
25.
yeah. The growth starts to become pretty apparent, like the aging.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't noticing anything like I didn't feel like any of them looked super older this season or anything, but
No, but
I know what you're
eventually.
saying though. Like if it continues to be like that long in between seasons and stuff, depending on how many seasons are planned, because we kind of were also sort of talking about that while we watched, like
Yeah.
how long is the story going to stretch out, like what's the length of the story, and I don't know, I don't feel like I have any real idea like how like where the story's going as far as that
I don't think
like longevity is concerned.
I don't think this show should go over 5 seasons for
Mm.
sure. I feel like if they try to make it any longer than that, they're going to be stretching the plot very thin. I think realistically, this show should probably end after like 4 seasons.
Hmm.
Just from what kind of story we have set up, there's only so much more you can do with this story that
Yeah.
I can see. Now, they could definitely change my mind on that and introduce new elements. But the only way for me that this show could continue on and it would feel like a totally different show is if we move away from the young flashbacks,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
There's only so much, and I think that's what I'm thinking of is when I think about the length of this show, how much story there is to tell. I think about how much story there is to tell in the flashbacks. And for me, that story is just going to run out.
I think that it is possible to keep the younger actors playing their younger selves if we
If they get them home.
yes, exactly, because
Yeah.
then we can actually see them like grow up
That's
and
cool.
become young
Yeah.
adults and
Okay.
all of that. So I think that that is possible, but yeah, being in the forest, being like in the wilderness, that does need to at some point get like they need to leave at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
Which could happen at the end of this season. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, this it starts off it's spring,
How
right?
long were they supposed to be out there?
I don't
I can't
remember.
remember
I think
either.
it's said how many months they're out there, but I
It's
do
definitely
not
said.
remember.
It's definitely
Um,
said.
they don't make it to another winter, I think. As far as I know. I don't think they go to another winter. I think that they get rescued before then.
Well,
Anyway,
anyway,
let's
so
talk about the
let's talk
episodes.
about the episode. So we got 2 episode premiere here. And from what I saw, it looks like it'll be a 10 episode season. So at least it's not like a short
No,
season.
that's a good length.
So yeah. All
Yeah,
right. Episode 1, It Girl, or IT Girl? No, it's It Girl.
it's it, girl.
Uh,
IT girl.
it starts with Rancid's Maxwell
Mhm.
Murder. Great song. I always like the nostalgia of the show as somebody who was a teenager in the 90s. Uh, I kind of line up with these girls age wise, and so getting the 90s soundtrack, although this episode, or maybe it was the next episode, whichever one, or both, featured some 80s songs, which I thought was odd because for the most part this show almost always does 90s because it's like a 90s nostalgia show
Mm,
for the flashbacks and whatnot. And even
yeah.
in the modern times they typically keep it more 90s centric because that's the era that we're harkening back to with this show. But like Tiffany's I Think We're Alone Now is
Mm.
super 80s. I mean, that's like one of the most 80s songs ever. And then there's another one that's playing at the bar when Misty's there getting drunk, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it is right now, but it was 80s for sure.
Mm.
So odd, but Maxwell Murder, great song. And then the second episode ends with Bikini Kill's Rebel Girl, which is another great freaking punk song. So loving the song choices. There's
Mm.
some and then Van is singing, or no, it's not. Yeah, she's singing something.
She's
She's singing.
karaokeing.
Yeah, she's karaokeing Jamiroquai,
Mm.
which I feel like no one who isn't from the 90s would know what the fuck that is. Like that's such a 90s thing.
Hmm.
You know Jamiroquai?
I think I've maybe heard it before, but
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't. I'm not like super familiar with it.
And then there's also Fiona Apple's "Criminal" playing is another one I remember. So it's always great to hear songs from the 90s, but Jamiroquai definitely took me back a bit. The classic music videos with him like walking. I showed you the video.
Oh,
The
that's
guy's
right. Yeah,
walking
you
on the
did.
floor as it's like a treadmill.
Yeah. I think
Really good
that, yeah,
stuff.
the show has a, just like last season, like it just in general has a fantastic soundtrack and also sound design. Like everything,
Oh
like
yeah.
aside from like the song choices, like the sound design and the music and the breathing and just all of that, I think is very well done. It's always very creepy sounding and very mysterious, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So,
So we get to see uh not Natalie's funeral.
yes, her memorial.
And
Well, I guess it is like the funeral, but it's a memorial
okay, yeah.
service.
And her mom comes out and gives a very heartfelt
Oh my
eulogy.
god, so bad. She's like, I used to push her on the swing.
All right,
She
that's it.
always wanted me to push her, but now that's done. That's it. Kind of reminded me. Well, I don't want to get any spoilers, but
Okay.
there's yeah. Anyway, it was good. Very
Yeah.
funny.
Ben, he's scavenging, right? He's out there
Yeah.
foraging for resources. He's trying to hunt and create traps and whatnot. And he seems to stumble onto the jackpot
Yeah.
of resources. He finds all these MREs. He finds protein bars. He
What those are
finds,
doing out there, like, because they look military.
yeah,
I know people can buy those things like from
yeah,
military supply stores or
yeah,
whatever, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's military, but it is weird that it's there. So I do wonder like if they're gonna find somebody else that's like living out there, or some other house or whatnot, right? Like
yeah.
it's odd, but it is a jackpot to find. I mean, they have like that would be amazing.
Yeah, when he finds the container that they're stored in, I'd have to look at the shot again. I'm sure I'm just mistaken on this, but it looked like there was just one of them, a storage container.
Hmm.
But then when
I think
he's
there.
up
I
and
think
out
we
of
only
there,
see that there's one, but yeah, he
he has
has
like
two.
2 or 3 put up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And number one, this is nothing, so totally pointless to talk about. But I don't know. I felt like it was noteworthy in the moment. Uh, I want to try to climb a ladder with one leg and come down it. That seems really complicated.
It's yeah. I mean, he
Just
has
jumping, because like that kind of like a wood ladder like that that's set up like that, it could be
sure. I
fragile
mean, he can
and
use his other leg, like what he has of
kind
it
of
to
the
like
stump
I don't
like
know.
on
That's the
the.
only thing I could think of that you'd have to like kind of
But
help
how do you
push
can't,
yourself
but
up.
he has it severed above the knee, no? So there's no bend to
Oh,
it.
you're right. Yeah, it's just the
Yeah.
like thigh
I
part.
just never thought about climbing a ladder with one leg, but
Oh
when I was
yeah.
watching him do it, they only show him at the bottom of the ladder
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they only show him back up.
Yeah.
And I was like, they did that because it would be very hard to film
But
him
then he
jumping
also
up and
gets
down.
all of those things out of
I
there,
know, that's another thing. I was
which
like,
is
how the
kind of
hell
like
did he lift those out of there?
I don't know. Maybe he was able to like
He used the
he's got
ladder as a
rope and
ramp
stuff, and maybe he
and
like
pushed it up.
yeah, maybe he like tied him and was able to like hoist him up from the top.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, but he gets him, and yeah, it's a good find. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
He sure as hell is. Although I would not eat the protein bar like that.
Oh my god.
Shoving the whole thing in your mouth
He
like
was
that.
just
That's gross.
excited, but
Of
yeah,
course.
that's how you choke and die.
Okay, so let's get into some theories here really quick. Jumping ahead, why don't we? Since that's what everyone's here for, is just kind of talk about the more interesting things in here. Okay, so Ty and Van go out to this fancy bullshit dinner. God, that looked awful.
Oh yeah,
It was like,
the
was that purposely pretentious? Like
oh yeah,
fucking
she.
like
I mean,
a
she
little
was
thing of
like, it's
cotton
gonna.
candy on like in a block of
It
like
was
what looked like ice.
foie
Foie
gras,
gras, whatever the
which
hell it is.
is like, isn't that like a? I don't know. Never mind.
I think I know
Uh,
what it is, but I'm not gonna say it and sound stupid and
I thought it
uncultured.
was like an unethical thing, like a way of
Oh
obtaining it, but maybe I'm thinking of something else.
no, I don't think
I
so.
thought it was like baby lamb liver or
Oh,
something.
oh.
I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway,
yeah,
so
it is
they
pretentious.
dine and dash, which don't do that. That's awful. I never did that. My friends always tried to get people, not my friends, but like friends in school, like friends, people you knew in school. They thought it was so cool to like go to a Denny's at night and do that.
That's like
Um,
every teen. I never dined and dashed either. I don't
but like
think so.
kids, like waiters would be like hip to that. And when they would have kids come in big order, they would like go stand by the door anytime that they would wait,
Yeah.
to make sure they couldn't run. Anyway, so they do dine and dash,
Yeah.
and they almost get hit by a car. Then the guy almost gets hit by a bus, but is saved by some random bystander, and he has a heart attack and
Mm-hmm.
and dies. I mean, we see Ty go to the restaurant, and they're having like a vigil for him. Um, this is interesting. This is not random. I can't see how this is just random. Like some 30-something-year-old dude
Oh,
has
sure.
a heart attack and
Yeah.
dies. So
It's definitely connected to them somehow, and the way that that like Ty, right,
mm,
reacts to it makes it seem like she knows something is going on cuz she like goes and burns some matches and some type of like a prayer ritual thing.
I think, okay, this is early, and I guess we're 3 seasons in, but for the new season, we're a little early on this. But with Van's terminal cancer
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that the forest can pick and choose, or whatever it is, right? Can it, like, it chose this person to die, Javi's brother, right? Like, we're gonna eat him now because it chose. I do wonder if Van has finally bought into that and is the one that's like following Shauna, leaving her videos, leaving her messages, because she wants to be saved from her cancer and
Mm.
she can pass that on, like her death, on to somebody else. Could it be the guy who died from a heart attack, right? They were running, and his life was taken so hers could be spared. Like,
Mm.
is she going to go into remission here soon? Um, or maybe will be something else, but that, I don't know, for some reason, because it was Van running and because she's terminal, And there does seem to be some kind of like balancing of the scales, so to speak, when it chooses. I do wonder if Van is either unaware that it's not choosing her or if she's in on it. So it doesn't mean Van has to be partaking in it
Yeah.
for it to choose her, right? She can be completely unbeknownst to her, or is she like in leagues with someone like Lottie or whoever, or this Melissa girl who they're trying to make a character now? I don't really
Yeah.
even remember her from last season all that much, and now they're making her Shauna's like love interest, and then hinting at that she's the one that left the phone and is calling her, and
That's in episode 2, yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
we're just doing both of them in one, so
yeah,
sorry.
I don't know about Van purposely doing anything, but
Yeah,
I do think there will be some potentially like magical remission that happens with her for sure.
same.
And also, like right before they run across the street, like when they're kind of like, or no, I'm sorry, this happens after they run across the street and they kind of start making out.
Oh yeah,
Ty
Ty
sees
sees
that
something.
we've seen it before,
Yeah,
the really tall guy with like no eyes.
yeah.
That's really scary looking. And she's seen him a few times, and so I don't know, but something's going
Is she
on.
just able to see? Right? Is that
Maybe.
what's happening
Yeah.
here? You know, like none of the other ones really can see, but she can. Like what's
Yeah.
following it, what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. I
She
mean,
might
she
not be
does seem,
crazy. She might actually just be seeing what's real.
yeah, she does seem to have some connection, but then again they all do, to some extent. So, I don't know. But it is really sad that that guy just has to die for them running.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's awful.
Yeah.
Of course. But I don't know. The mental thing always for me has been interesting because we have this agreed upon reality in society, um, that no one's allowed to like burst the bubble of.
Mm,
And if there are people that see reality for what it actually is, we throw them in the loony bin and forget about them. And of
sure.
course, everyone writes them off as
Yeah.
insane. And I've always thought about that. You know, my whole life, I've always been like, what if not all of them? Of course, I'm sure there's people who are just, unfortunately mentally unwell. But then there's other people. It's like maybe they're the sane ones. Maybe
Mm,
they're the ones who can actually see what's really going on here if we are all living in a simulation or whatever.
mm.
Are they the ones, the Neos of the Matrix that can see the reality? So I don't know. Is Ty able to? Does she have some ability, some second sight that she can actually see reality, and it makes her think she's crazy, and it even can control her to some degree? I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's definitely
It's
worth
interesting.
just
Mhm.
considering, because I don't feel like this show is ever explicitly outright stated that it's supernatural
No, I want to say
yet.
that it hasn't. But again, we didn't
It
rewatch any of
it
the
tiptoes it.
either of the other
We
seasons.
always
Yeah.
say in like certain episodes, like, okay, I think maybe this is officially
Yes.
supernatural,
Yeah.
but it's like, is it?
It does very much toe the line, I think. Yes, and especially with like hysteria and stuff, I think that's, yeah, it's really easy when the girls are in the woods and like everything starts screaming and stuff.
Do you
That
want a
sound.
definitive answer
I don't
on if it's
know.
supernatural or not?
Honestly, I don't know. I think that it could be done. What I think would be really cool is for it to be tied up in a way that you could go
Ambiguous, yeah.
either or, but like in a really solid, ambiguous way.
Yeah.
Right? That I think makes it the most interesting, because then you can kind of talk about a lot of stuff when it comes to the show, and like PTSD and again hysteria, like mass hysteria, or whatever, group delusions and stuff. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But
Group delusions from smoking too much chronic.
yeah, all the chronic talk in these two
Such
episodes,
a
very funny.
90s term for marijuana.
Yeah, I don't think we ever called it chronic
What
when
is
I
it? What
was
does everyone
younger.
call it now?
I don't know. All I know, this is probably outdated now, but like, because people use like the vape cartridges and
Okay.
stuff instead. Blinkers, I think, is what they call them. Or I don't know. Now I feel like I sound old because I feel like I've only heard that on TikTok and I'm probably saying it
Is
wrong.
everyone, I mean,
But
pot is always
yeah.
like, I think the one that everyone is like fine with people saying.
I don't know. I've
Like, let's
always
go
said like
smoke some pot.
weed, marijuana,
Weed.
pot,
There's so many names for it. I don't know what the kids call it
Mary
today.
Jane.
I
I
feel
feel like you
so
could just
old
call
to
it,
say
yeah,
it
I
that
don't
way, but
know. What do the kids call the drugs today?
yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
Probably not. Maybe they say
It
chronic.
was the chronic for sure.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, that's what like every kid in my high school called
Yeah.
it. Like, you want to go hit the chronic after
It's very
school?
funny.
I didn't smoke. It was never something I was interested in, honestly. Um, I tried it and I hated it, I had it a couple times, and it gave me horrendous panic attacks, like the worst panic attacks I've ever had in my life. So never was my thing. It did the exact opposite of of the shit that everyone told me it would do.
Yeah.
And so I wish it did the opposite. I would love for it to chill me the fuck out and calm my brain down, and just for me to sit there and you know, think all deeply and shit. That sounds wonderful, but that's not what it does to me. It freaks me the fuck out. Okay. And you know, Callie's getting herself in trouble in school, and this is kind of bonding her with Shauna.
Yes.
You know, she finds it more funny. And speaking of speaking of Shauna, I did get a really good laugh when she called out that guy who's trying to do business with Jeff.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic because they kept both.
Painful little boner.
Yeah, painful little boner is a crazy
You're
insult.
nothing.
I'm so glad though that she spoke up because they're sitting there the whole time being like, "Well, we're self-made
Yeah.
and like you kind of need this more than we need you and
Yeah.
stuff." And she's like, "Oh
Ugh.
yeah, what did your dad do?" And
Right.
like
It's great.
that was such a good call out. But yeah, she has very much like you know, like not as much of a filter as other people. It's one of the things that I think, you know, Shauna's character has always been she is like the perfect mixture of like you like her because like you like her, you know, strength I guess
Boldness.
and
Yeah.
boldness, but then
Yeah.
you're also like pissed off at her because she's manipulative and
Yeah.
conniving
Yeah.
and you know a lot of the characters I think have that kind of double edge to them, which is great. It's one of the things that makes the show so interesting is that you can, you know, nobody's squeaky clean. There's
Yeah.
no like wonderful perfect character.
And Melissa is clearly falling for her strength. You know,
Yes.
out in the wilderness and out in these curious situations that you find yourself in,
Yeah.
and people gravitate towards leaders and strength and
Mm-hmm.
resiliency. And Shauna is you know, very resilient, even though she's really not. She definitely projects like she is.
She
She's falling
does.
apart like everybody else.
Yeah.
But she likes to peacock and posture like she's strong, and
Mm-hmm.
she's stands up for what she thinks is right, and you know, does the shit that she does uh, to this girl. So yeah, Melissa's now. It's interesting to introduce this character who's kind of been around in
Yeah.
the background, but it feels like a new character. And anytime they do that, it always just feels like they're setting them up for some big reveal or big death that
Sure.
we're supposed
Yeah.
to be like, oh wow, they killed a main character, and it's like, yeah, was she a main character, or did they
Yeah.
just make her a main character this
I mean,
season?
I like that they're, you know, we have this kind of core group that we've been following around, but we don't know everybody that has survived and hasn't.
No.
So I do like that we have other characters that we can bring in, you know, either in the past or now, like in the future. And by bring it in the past, I mean just like put more focus on in the past because there are other girls on the team, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes of this Melissa and Shauna business because it definitely feels like the setup is the phone belonged to her, and she dropped whatever the packages off that Callie has with the tape in it.
Yeah.
What do you think's
The
on that tape? The cassette?
mini DV. Um, the symbol is drawn on there, so it's obviously somebody who was out in the woods. And
Yes.
like nobody knows that symbol other
Right.
than them, right? So it can't be some outside party like Walter, right? Because I thought for a minute he's the one screwing with them.
Sure.
Now, could Walter know about the symbol, getting as close to Misty as he is, poking through her business, looking through all of her stuff, being the detective that he is?
It's
It's
possible. It's definitely
possible.
possible.
Um, it very heavily alludes to that it's Melissa. Now that could be a head fake for sure. She could just die somewhere later in this season, and we're like, then who the hell's been calling her and following
Right.
her, right? Now, she asked who picked it up and what did they look like. We didn't hear the answer, but I'm assuming she's getting the information of she was this build with this kind of hair or whatever, and it sounds like Melissa. And once again, though, the thing that upsets me, and it annoys me, because I do kind of feel it to be like convenient writing that comes off as a bit contrived and lazy, but more for the contrivances of it, is that when we were in that first season and shit was happening and they were trying to figure out the mystery of like who could be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I was annoyed by the fact that we didn't until later on get a reveal that Van was still alive.
Mm.
And it's like, if they knew where she was, which they did, and they knew that she was part of things, which of course they do, why would she not be a suspect on the list?
Sure.
Right? And if Melissa is yet another Yellowjacket that survived, why has she not been brought up at this point? Like, what about Melissa? She also survived. She could be doing this. And it's like, there's no explanation for why these people wouldn't be on the suspect list in season 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think that maybe the only like explanation for that is that these guys have all been kind of in the same area, and some of the other people might have moved elsewhere.
That's even
I'm not
more
saying
suspicious.
That they shouldn't have been on the suspect list. I'm just saying as to why they wouldn't be like.
They wouldn't mention them at all.
No, they should have. But it is kind of, I think, intentionally omitted to be mysterious, and so that we can like find out like who's alive and who isn't, because we know all these girls, you know, in the past, and we don't know who's alive in the future.
What would have been cool and smart to me is if they would have addressed it in a kind of winky, mysterious way, where they put names up on the boards and they show the chalkboard or whatever they're writing up on, and the camera is like off and they're pointing off camera. And they're like, well, what about these other survivors? And they're like, well, I don't really think they would have anything to do with it because, you know, they don't live around here or something. And it's like, they're at least addressing them.
Yeah.
And then we're then being like, who are those other people? There's other survivors. Ooh, addressing it and then adding a layer of mystery to it, to like, is it 2? Is it 5? Is it, you know what I mean? When it says others with a plural, it could be 2, it could be 100. It doesn't have to be any specific number, but to just address it, because they knew Van was alive. And they know, when I say that, I mean the writers definitely knew Van was alive.
Yeah.
And to not have her brought up at all, and to add this Melissa character now, and she survived too, it just, I don't know. It feels like it's convenience.
I think that's fair.
For the writing.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we'll just introduce, like, what's going to happen within, 5 seasons, 6 seasons, when they've now had 7 more survivors. And it's like, none of these people were brought up. Like, you had so many people survive. How did you not think, like, oh, it was just such a small group of people that would know about our secrets? It's also possible that they
didn't. I mean, yes, Van maybe is one, but it's also possible that they think a lot of the other people died, right? Like, it's possible that people are left in the wilderness and not everyone is rescued.
I mean,
those people, they would be like, we don't know if they're alive.
We considered that.
Yeah, so that's a possibility.
With Lottie.
Yes.
Right. We had considered that in the first season. We were like, just because they weren't rescued doesn't mean they didn't survive.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it is to be revealed that Melissa was rescued with them, which Van was for sure, that's an issue. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Moving on. We definitely see some similarities here, of course. Correlations between Callie and her mom. Callie's revenge on these girls for talking shit about her mom and her friends is pouring pig intestines, or some kind of intestines.
I think it's pig intestines.
Whatever it is. Some intestines on her, as well as we see a flashback of Shauna, shoving the Mari's face
Mm,
in the soup after spitting in it. So,
yeah.
yeah, this is Shauna's daughter
Oh yeah.
through and
Yeah,
through.
she definitely feels very much like Shauna's daughter.
Yeah.
So,
And then let's see. We talked about all that stuff. Um, yeah. So Lottie shows up at Shauna's. Jeff, of course, refuses, but
he doesn't have that much of a
he's a
say.
he's a doormat
And
to Shauna.
Callie really, so they end up letting her stay. The other big things that happen in this couple episodes is that Misty feels like super guilty about Natalie's death. And she kind of Walter gives her a storage key to one of Natalie's storage units, and
Yeah,
she goes there and finds one of Natalie's old leather jackets and puts it on and tries to kind of like channel her a little bit,
yeah.
and goes to a bar and gets super drunk by drinking like 7 shots of whiskey, like all at once.
It's interesting
um,
though, and I wonder if this is like Juliette Lewis was busy doing something, but when she sees her in her mind, she
she
sees
sees young
young
Natalie.
Natalie, which
Yeah.
is odd. You would think it would be older Natalie because that's how she'd be remembering her in the moment, having just attended her
I mean,
service.
maybe because the flashbacks that we get to, like Misty, of course, just really wants to fit in and is like going with Natalie to look for Mari when
Yeah,
she
she
runs off.
idolizes her,
And
but
yeah,
she still idolizes her when she's an adult.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm not, if I knew someone now and they died right now, and I
Well,
was thinking about them, I wouldn't be like, I could envision them as kids. I would reflect back, but I'd mostly see them as their older
maybe
self.
she sees her as her younger self because that's the idealized version of her before she gets into like drugs and drinking
But
and
she's there
doing all kinds
drinking
of
in
stuff.
her honor, basically. Like, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
the rebel who's the drunk,
I don't
like
know.
her.
I'm just trying to give some
I Yeah,
ideas for
no,
why,
I think they're good
but
arguments. I just think it's probably she was busy filming something else.
maybe. But anyway, she does that and then she tries to like pick a fight with some like random guys at the bar
Burning their
to
dicks
try and burn
with
their
beer that does not burn, by the way.
yeah. Walter picks her up after telling her that she because she left her phone at the bar and the bartender, instead of calling the police, called like every number in her contact and didn't reach anybody until W. I don't believe this. I do not think that that's what happened. I think that, especially because of Walter's little smile after he turns around when she agrees to go to the storage unit, I think that he was following her, and I think that he's really trying to isolate her and make her rely on him. Because later, when Shauna invites Misty over to babysit, she doesn't mention anything like I missed your call or any of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like
I hate how everyone uses Misty
I do
and looks
too.
down on her.
I just don't trust Walter. I think Walter is not good news.
Oh, 100%.
So, um yeah, and then, obviously when Misty does go over to babysit, Callie ends up putting like cough syrup, cough medicine in to
Instead of
her.
grenadine.
Yeah, and she passes out and gets
Who the
really
fuck
messed up.
drinks rum milk?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a beverage, an alcoholic drink, but it
It
sounds
is. It's just
gross.
disgusting.
Ugh, sounds
I
awful.
drank a lot when I was a younger man,
Ew.
and I definitely did not
I
drink
know people
that.
put
Pina
aren't
coladas
like
are amazing, and that has rum in it.
mm,
So I guess it's similar, but the way she was making it,
she just
she
poured
literally put
milk in
milk in, and
rum.
she had that like kind of like coconut rum. I love pina coladas, you know. So I guess maybe I'm being a total hypocrite right now. I don't drink anymore. I haven't in many, many, many years. But when I did drink, yeah. Do you like
I was
pina
just gonna say,
colada? I mean, how can you not?
yeah.
Yeah,
Um
it's good. It's
yeah,
good drink.
well what they're drinking looks gross, but anyway, Misty gets messed up from it, of course, and
Little thing here. The restaurant that Ty and Van go to is called Paz Dame, however the
mhm.
fuck, which translates to no soul.
Oh,
Weird thing to name your restaurant.
yeah.
So that seems like an Easter egg for a purpose.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine a restaurant naming
Well,
themselves
especially because
No
she like
Soul.
takes the matchbox and like burns it,
Yeah,
and it has the name of the restaurant on there. Maybe they all
she
sold their
burns her soul.
souls. I don't know.
Yeah, the No Soul thing is
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know what that's hinting at. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, she sold her soul. I don't know. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
And I did find it a tad funny and total hypocrisy that Misty seems to be really mad at Walter for basically being Misty.
Sure, he's like trying to like put on some. He's just always trying to do nice things for her and be like
Well, he's like
super
stalking
helpful.
them,
Yes,
stalking her, and being super
she's yeah.
attentive and up in their business
Well,
and
and mostly he's
clingy. And
like
it's like, you're
he keeps telling her,
Misty.
yeah, he keeps telling her that her friends aren't really her friends, and that's really what's upsetting her because she has tried so hard to be their friend. And it is very obvious that like the girls just don't like her. I mean, in the past when like
No.
Shauna tells her like I think that the coach is alive, I think Natalie knows, she, Misty like smiles at her, and Shauna gives her this like, like she like does a very condescending smile back, and everyone's treating her like that. And I
They
get it
always
that
have.
she's very clingy and stuff, but it's just like I don't think even now I don't feel that they really appreciate her and care about her. So I don't think that Walter has good news, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong in terms of like they're not her quote unquote real friends. I think that she just feels trauma bonded to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I guess the last thing to talk about here is Ben's kidnapping of Mari,
Sure.
or at least his what would you call this?
Yeah, he kind of kidnaps her. He sets up a trap that is
It's supposed to
supposed
be
to
for
be
the
for like
deer.
deer,
Yeah,
but she walks through and of course falls.
yeah.
And he hears her screaming and he kind of smiles like he's happy that he caught a girl. Um but like he helps her, like walks her through how to reset her knee, helps her out of there, and then he gives her hot chocolate and stuff and is like, I'm not going to hurt you, but I need to think about this because you're just going to go back to camp. And he's not wrong. Like he's very afraid of them and they're like
Of
group
course.
think because he's like, you guys are going to eat me, even though she's like, we're done with that. Are they?
No,
Probably not. They're probably going
no,
to eat
they're not.
somebody else.
100% they will.
Because they're like in this like very, like ritualistic vulnerable mindset where they think that that's, something that it wants or whatever. But at the end of like the scene with her when he's in their little cave, he's like talking to himself. He's
Yeah,
arguing. He's
yeah.
not necessarily, I don't know, maybe he's hearing something from the forest, maybe he's seeing
I mean,
his
how many
somebody
people
from the
have seen
past.
things now?
Oh, sure, it's
Right?
not surprising.
Shauna and Ty and Ben now.
Natalie.
Right. So this is a pretty common
Yeah.
occurrence with for the people who have been out in that forest.
Yeah, absolutely. What it means for him, though, we do not know yet.
Even the isn't the religious girl who blew up in the plane.
Sure, she
Didn't
saw
she
stuff.
saw stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, but that's a big thing. And Travis was getting drugged with all those mushrooms and
Oh
hearing and
yeah.
seeing stuff.
Even
So
attacked Lottie.
yeah, but he lies to not have to take the mushrooms anymore. And I forget who he says, but the girl who has the ducks and who's like the one who had the rat and
Yeah.
everything that's very connected to the animals, he kind of lies to Lottie and is like, no, like she's so connected to the animals, she's closer to the forest and all that. So
Yeah.
that sucks. I could see her coming back in the future, maybe. But again, who
With this
knows?
show, they all
We'll
survive. Who
see.
fucking
We'll
knows?
see. It
Yeah.
was a good start though. It's a good couple episodes to start the season.
It's just getting the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what comes.
No huge things, no huge revelations or
Nothing
anything.
yet.
But
No.
yeah, just
Solid.
in ignition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What did you guys think? What did we miss? What have we forgotten? What are we wrong about?
Yeah.
All that stuff, that's fine. We're not an explanation show. We're just here to casually talk about the show based on our memory of a show that we watched 2 years ago
Yes.
because they took so damn long. If you want those breakdown videos where they explain everything to you, there's 100 channels like that.
Absolutely.
But we're supposed to be the friends you talk to after the show that are like, who's what again? You like the more natural conversations. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. We will be back next week for episode 3, and we'll see you then. All right.
Bye.
Bye.